Hi there! Welcome to today's Learning Lunches. Today we're going to be talking some more about PowerPoint. This is the second lesson in our PowerPoint series, so we're going to be going a little bit deeper into some subjects that we started covering last week. We'll be talking about slide design, animations, and adding multimedia content to your presentations. This will all kind of get mixed in together, and we've got a few tutorials to work through, so let's get started.
Just going to start a little bit with working through a couple different animations, just because as you work through them, you get to use a bunch of different tools that PowerPoint has to offer. And so I think the easiest way to learn these tricks is to use them in some sort of applied way. And animations are fun mostly because they help with the storytelling component of a presentation. So this whole side here is kind of my notes for the day. But if we go to the first slide here and we were to play it, you can see what's going on is you have this globe and it's spinning around, and you create this cool effect that, it's more than just the words on the slide. And so learning when to kind of use animations to advance your point is something that you kind of learn just with experience. But the tricks of how to put something like this together are things that are just fun to practice. So let's say this is something that we were trying to build for ourselves. There's a lot of different features that we will be utilizing to make it all happen. And you may notice that my toolbar is it's a really big toolbar today. And I am using Microsoft 365, but everything that we'll do today you can use in earlier versions of PowerPoint. It just might be located in a slightly different place. And if there's anything on your toolbar that you're missing, there's a quick way to fix it. We're just going to be using Home, Insert, Design, Transitions, Animations, and Slideshow today. So anything else, don't worry about. But you can always right-click, go to Customize the Ribbon, and here where it shows Customize the Ribbon on the right, you can select all tabs, and you'll see everything I have, everything's checked. So any feature that PowerPoint has to offer, I have downloaded. So that's why it looks so busy up there. But anyway, getting started, what we'll use is a feature that allows us to have some sort of cutaway and move different elements of the slide behind the image. This is with the background sort of brought forward, and you can see what's sort of happening. There's two different maps and they're moving in opposite directions across the screen to create the animation. So to do that, it takes a lot of planning. And so I've obviously already planned this out, so I know the steps to go through. But usually what you'll want to do is kind of write out what you want and then break it down into the steps. But you kind of have to know what's possible to get started. So let's explore that a little. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the background of this slide to be a different color. And we can do that from the Design tab. And we'll go to Format Background over here on the right. And Solid Fill is perfect. And we'll just make it something kind of like an ocean blue. Here we go. And this will be the background color of our globe. So we can close that. And the next thing that we'll want to do is we're going to want to make the shape that will be the globe itself. And I have already put these shapes here, so it'd be easier, but you can do it just as well from Insert, Shapes, and pick a circle. And if you hold down the Shift key, it'll make the oval a perfect circle. Same thing with a rectangle, it'll make a rectangle a perfect square. It just keeps all those sides the same. So I'm going to hit Shift, I'm going to click and then hit Shift and drag until I have a nice happy circle shape. And I let go of my Shift key as I did that, so I'll try that one more time. Insert, Shape, Circle, drag, click, and I just had to let go of the mouse before I let go of the Shift key there. And I can resize it, make it a little bigger, still holding down Shift. There we go. So that's a good sized globe. And we want two circles like this. So I'm going to hit Control C to copy. You could just as well do right click, copy, and then paste it. I'm going to do Control V. Now I have two circles. And the next thing that I'm going to do, I don't need one of these for now, and this is something handy with PowerPoint. You can put things off to the side of your slide that you're not ready to use yet, and we'll use this quite a bit today. Then what we'll do is we'll draw another shape, insert, shape, we'll put in a rectangle, and this will create that dark background that we see on that original image. We'll make it the length of the entire slide, and then we'll just change the fill color, something like this dark blue. I'm going to get rid of its outline, so I go to Shape Outline, No Outline. Now you can see we have that taking up the whole slide. This is another important feature in PowerPoint, this selection pane. You can get to it when you have something selected under Format, or if you're on Home, this Arrange, use the drop-down arrow, and you go to the bottom, click Selection Pane. And what it does is it brings up all the shapes, all the features you have on your slide. If I had text on here, it would show those too. And so this one is on top, and it's making it impossible for me to see my other circle. So I can use these arrows to change the order of these on the slide. So I'll click that to drop it down, and now it's in the back. I can exit out of here. And the next tool that we're going to use, this is going to allow there to be a cutaway through which we get to see that map moving in a little bit. And this tool is called Merge, and it's under the Format tab once you have a shape selected. And there is a little bit of a trick to this. You'll click the shape that you want to keep, click Format, and then you'll click your second shape while holding down the Control key. Control and click allows you to select more than one thing at once. And when you go to Merge Shapes now, it knows that the first one you selected, the rectangle, is the one that is most important to you. So I can click here, and I can go down to this option called Subtract. And what it's doing is now it's making a little hole in my background, exactly the size and shape of the picture in front of it. So I click this, and now as I move this around, you can see that hole. I'm going to put it back where it was. But that's a really fun tool for making different kinds of designs. You can imagine having a slide with a bunch of different cutaways and maybe a background of some sort of gradient, and you could create something like a starry night or really anything. It's just a cool trick. And so the next thing that I'm going to do for this is I want to include the map on my slide too. But this is something that you might have to download from the internet if you were making this for yourself. That's how I got this picture to begin with, so I'm just going to go to the slide where I had brought it in from, copy it, and then paste it here. You can see there it is. If you're bringing in a picture from an outside source, you'll want to go to Insert, and then Pictures. You can either do online pictures and you can search the internet for something, or this one will let you pull something that's already saved to your computer. But anyway, now that we have that, I'm going to resize it, make it about the right size for this particular sphere. I'm just going to grab the corner, pull it, and that's a little too big. My scale of the world is a little bit off today, I guess, but I think that's good enough. And the next thing I'm going to do is if this were to move across once, we'd only get one rotation. So we need two of these to make, two or more to make this work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy it and then paste it. Just use Control-C and then Control-V to make another one. And I'm going to line these up next to each other. And the next thing I'm going to do is group them. And I'll use that same feature where I hold down the Control key and click the second shape. You can see they're not exactly lined up, so I'm going to fix that before I combine them. There we go, now they're lined up. And I'll go to that Format tab, and let's see. Oh, that's right, it's not under Format. You just got to right click it. I'm not sure exactly where it lives on the ribbon. This is how I've always done it. But if you were curious where it lives, you could always type it into the help bar and they would find it for you. So I'll just click Group, and now two images has become one image. And we could do this again and make it even bigger. I'm not going to worry about it for now, just because it means more time lining stuff up. But now we have this image that is the world that can move around and rotate for us. And so the next thing we'll do is we'll look at that selection pane again. And I'm going to rename these just because I have a hard time keeping track of things. So we're going to make this front map, this oval here. This one we're going to use to make the spherical contours to change the shape from just being a circle to looking a little more three-dimensional. And then this freeform shape, this is kind of that background, we'll just call it void of space. Just so I know what exactly we're working with here. So this one that's going to be giving some sort of depth to the picture, this uses a feature called gradients, and this is something that you can use with shapes or with slides, and so it's fun to do it in both. And you're going to access it from the Format tab once you have this shape selected. And what you can do is from Shape Styles, click on this Format Shape kind of pop-out box. It'll bring this up. We don't really need this open anymore, so there we go. And you can see right now, it's just a solid fill. What we'll do is we'll switch that to being a gradient fill. And it's already kind of set up because I had done this earlier. This isn't the default. The way it typically looks is probably something like this, and that's not very helpful for us. So the way I changed this was I changed the type. You can see it can be linear, radial, rectangular, or follow some sort of path. In this case, we want radial. And the direction we want coming out from the center. So we'll select that option there. It also automatically gives you these different stops. And the stops show where one version of the color begins and another one ends. So as I drag these around, you can kind of see what's happening to the shape. You can add these or delete these if there's too many. I'm going to get rid of one because we probably don't need that many. I'm going to move this to halfway. It's a little off, but you could type it in and adjust it perfectly there if you wanted. And then what you can do is change the color for each of these. I want it to be that same dark blue as the background, so it kind of looks like the shadow is peeking through or around the globe. And when I do this to all of them, it's going to be, well, just like that, this big dark circle. But this one that's the center, I'm going to make it more transparent so I can see all the way through. And this one, I'll make it about halfway. So now we can see a little bit through too. I'll slide this around, and now it's just dark right on the outside edge, and it kind of looks a little more like an object in space. So the next thing that we'll do, now that we have that set up, is we'll put in the actual animation. And to start with, we know that we're going to have this slide across from, well, east to west, so right to left. So going like, left to right. Got my directions backwards today. So it's going to do something like that. And now we're going to finally open up that animation pane. And that's going to be right over here. Oops, yep. And you'll notice there's a spot here to put in animations and a spot here to put in animations. This one will cancel out any other animations you maybe have added already to that particular shape. So it's fine if you're adding something for the first time or if you want to swap an animation out. But sometimes it can inadvertently delete things that you've done. So I like to use just this one over here. And you can see you have a bunch of different options. There's entrance options, emphasis options. Some of these are blocked out just because of the type of shape it is. Some only work for text. We have exit options. And then we have motion paths. And this is the kind that we'll use today. So I'm going to make it as a line. Now you see it went down instead of sideways. And you can change that from this effect options and go to the right. So you can see now it's sliding in the correct direction. So the next thing I'll do is I'm going to make it move a little bit more. So let's put this maybe where we want it to begin with. Maybe we want it to start on the map somewhere around here, and we want it to go all the way across. We can use this zoom tool to zoom out a little bit, see more of the slide, and we can click on the animation itself. See, I had the shape selected before, and then I clicked on this red arrow here, and now the animation itself is selected. The shadow that you see behind it, that is the end point of the animation, and it gives you an idea of what it's going to look like as you work. So the next thing that I'll do is I'm going to make this go all the way across, and I can use that shadow to keep track of where it's ending. So I don't want it to go all the way away, so maybe right about here. That's probably a good spot. And the next thing that we can look at is the Animation Pane. And this looks a lot like that Arrange tab that we had that showed the different layers of the slide. And you can go to Format, that's the picture itself. This is the, for the picture. So if we go to that Animations again, we click on Animation Pane up here, and you can see it. This is how animations stack up. It shows each little action as you go. So if I click Play From or Preview, either one, it'll play through that motion. You can see it went pretty darn fast. That's a little too long for, too quick for a rotation around the globe. Let's see how it works with 10 seconds. So what I'm doing is I'm looking at this timing section of the animation toolbar, and you can see these different options of when to start it, how long it'll last, and how much of a delay that you want. So a delay in this case would be I'd click and it wouldn't go immediately. It would go as soon as that timer had run out. So looking at that, we've now got it set to go 10 seconds and go immediately, no delay. So now I'll hit preview. Let's see what it does. Okay, that's really slow. Well, maybe it's not so bad. It was extra slow in the beginning. And there's a way to make that a little smooth. You can see it slowed down at the beginning and slowed down at the end. And there's a way to adjust these, and there's more options for all the animations. And what you do is you click this little options effect, effect option pop-out box, and you can see you have the effect and you have some stuff with the timing. Here on this first one, you can see what it's doing. It has a smooth start and a smooth end, and we don't really need that. Or we can make it really short, maybe 0.3 seconds. That's going to be really, there we go. So we'll hit OK. And now off it goes. It's rotating around just like we want. So we're almost there. This is almost exactly the way we want it. But as you saw in the beginning, we had something showing kind of the back of the globe as though it was a little bit transparent. And I think that kind of helps with the idea of this 3D shape. So what I'll do is I'm going to copy this image and then paste it again. And what's fun with animations is it copies that animation as well. So if I hit Control-C, Control-V, here it is. I'm going to change the color real quick just so that we can see it a little bit better. I'm going to make it red for now. Eventually we'll make it just a lighter green. But this way it's easy to tell which one we're moving around. So you can see it comes with its own little bar that's going to move with it. Now, this particular image, if we had this going in the opposite direction, it wouldn't quite look right because in reality, on the backside, it's going to be the mirror of itself. And we can change that easily. You can do this with any kind of shape. Over under the Format tab, where it says Arrange and you have the options of bring forward and backward, at the bottom right, there's this Rotate Objects option. And if we open that, we can flip it. In this case, we want to flip it horizontally. And part of why I kind of dove into this whole tutorial is so that you can see all these different features and how they can be used to create exactly what you want. So now we have the mirror of the map, and one thing that did happen is notice the animation is still going in that original direction. And that's okay, we can change that. First, let's set this up to about where we want it to start off from. Let's see, we have Africa over there, so let's see, it's gonna pull around. That's probably about right. Maybe just a little bit farther over. There, it's lined up pretty good. Okay, and so now what I'll do is I'll go back to that Animations tab, and where it says Effect Options, it says right. I'm gonna switch that to left. You can see it made it short again, but that's okay. What I can do is click on that animation again. Here we go. You can see it goes from there to there. I'm gonna zoom out and make it about the same length as the other animation. Oops, I clicked it a little bit funny, but that's okay. We'll line it back up. And so it's gonna go all the way across, and then probably right about, oh well, let's see. Maybe right about to there. Let's just see how that looks. So what we'll do is we want these to occur at the same time, and this is where this on click matters. You can have it happen on click, with previous, or after previous. And these we want to happen at the same time. So I'll click with previous, and now you see that 2 that was there went away, and we just have a 1. So there's one moment where this starts. So we'll hit preview and we'll see them move together. Off they go. So this one had a bit shorter of a path, so it went quite a bit faster. So I need to work on that. So I would take this, work on that, and we'd pull it across a little bit. Maybe right about to there. Let's try that. That's still, now that looks a little long. And it just takes a little bit of finagling to get it exactly the way you want it. And unfortunately, it's probably going to run off the screen. So here it goes. Yep. Also notice that it's, I just clicked out to end that real quick. Also notice it's got that duration of 2 seconds. Remember we had switched that to 10. So it takes a little bit of checking to make sure everything's lining up correctly. Now let's preview it. Oh, it's going a little slow. It had that same delay. So we'll go to the effect options for it. Bring those down to 0.3. Boop. You can see this can be a really time-consuming process. We'll hit stop. We'll preview that one more time. That's not too bad. That's pretty good. If we were trying to make this perfect, we might make this red version of the shape a little bit longer so that it can make another rotation, but we're not going to worry about it for now. I'm just going to go to the Format Picture Tools, change the color to be, this is the green of the other one. I'm going to make it this lighter green. And now all we have to do is change the layout of the slide itself. So we'll go to the selection pane, and now we can see, so this says front map, this is really the back map. It copied the name when I copied the image. So we'll do that. So now we can bring this background all the way to the front. So bring that forward. And here we go. We've got something going on that kind of looks like the right sphere. Oh, here's what's happening. The back is in front. So we'll slide that backwards using the arrows. Now that looks a little bit better. Let's close those and let's play this slide. I'm going to click the slideshow button down here. Gonna click. Now you can see it's rotating around. And that looks pretty good. And it's something that you'd work on a little bit more maybe to make it exactly perfect. But that's kind of the quick and dirty version of, here, let's bring that forward. There we go. That's a little better too, of that map that we had at the very beginning. That contour really does sort of help it. And we've seen quite a few different tools through this method of the grouping, the merging, the animations, and these different sort of formatting tools to make shapes different colors and different transparencies. And these are things that you can use in just about any way using PowerPoint. So for instance, this blank slide, if we were to go to design and format the background, we could use that same sort of gradient fill to make a slide that looks like this. So all of these things that we saw working with shapes apply to slides as well. So I'm going to bring up another example that we can work through. And this one, I don't know how much time exactly we'll have, so I'm going to try to do as much as we can. This is, let's show all my windows so I can get the click on the right one. Here we go. Share. Okay. So what I want to show you on this one is just kind of how to make a presentation with animations for words. So what I'll do is I'll click Slideshow here, and as soon as I start the show, you can see all these words are coming across the screen. And in theory, these would be timed in a way that is particular for the slideshow. And it would transition along, and you can do all these different things just with animations. And the technical word for animating text is this kinetic typography. It's just kind of a fun way of playing with your slides and making them do exactly what you want. These are all just little examples of things that you can do, and I'll show you a couple quick and easy tricks to get started. So these all are pretty coordinated. I'll show you the animation pane for this one. You can see it's a little bit busy. It might seem like a lot, but getting started and applying these to your own slides isn't too bad. So let's look at this one, for instance. So this is just a slide with a text box. All I did was I went to Insert, Text Box, drew a text box, typed in what I want, and then I resized it. That's all that I did. Just resized it, made it centered, added a different line, and made it big too. So words is italicized. So this is kind of a pretty straightforward example, and this is a way to do it when you have everything typed in to one box. When it's all typed in like this, what you can do is you can go to that animation tab again, and you can choose whatever option you want. In this case, I want the words to kind of fade in. This is where these different entrance ones will work, and it's fun to just kind of click on each one, see how it works, and get a sense of it. So this one I'll click fade, and you can see it all kind of comes in at once, and it's really fast. So we'll change the duration again. So from the animation tab, we'll go to timing. Maybe I want this to take 2 seconds. I'll hit 2, enter. Let's preview that real quick. That's a little better. I like that. So what I'll do now is, what if I want each word to kind of show up on its own? I can change that even though it's all in one box by going to this Effect Options tab again. We used it before to change how smoothly an item moved, but we can change other things here because it's a different type of animation. This time it's a fade. And it also recognizes that it's text, so it gives us an animate text option. And you can see it has all at once automatically selected. And we can change that to be by word or by letter. I'm going to do it by word. And it has the delay time 10%. I'll hit OK. And now you can see that's how it fades in. So that's a really fun, sort of easy way to start animating with words. It's a lot simpler than what's going on in some of the previous slides. And there's other ways to do it too that give you a little bit more of an option as you put it in. And we can do it with this slide. It's pretty much the same thing I just did here. I put in a text box for each word. So same thing, I put an insert text box, but I just typed one word in, and then I did the same thing for each of them, and I made them bigger, italicized, did some word art to the word words. So that's what's going on to start with on this slide. So what you can do, now that these are all separate, is you can animate them all individually. So what I'll do is I'll go to the Animations pane, I'll click on this first word, you. Click on the box, and this one, what I want to happen on this slide is I want each of my words to just kind of drop in from above, and then I want the word words to sort of zoom into view, and then two to kind of pop up. So what I'll use is I'll use this fly in animation. Go to Add Animations, Fly in. Now it's pulling it up from the bottom, which isn't quite what I want. So I'll go to the Effect options and I'll select from the top. You can see there's all different versions of this, so you can really customize it to do exactly what you want. Now it's dropping in from above. Perfect. So I can click on this now. And if I want all of these to do the same thing, we have this Animation Painter. Animation Painter works like the Format Painter, where it applies whatever animation that you've already established for a particular item on your screen to the next items that you select. So what I'll do is I'm going to click this, and then I'll click the next one. Can. Perfect. And you can either click and re-click, or you can double click, and now it's kind of automatically selected, and it'll hold that until I'm done. Now that I'm done, I'm just going to click outside, and it unselects it. So let's see. So, okay, so just checking the chat for a minute, making sure questions were fine. Okay, so what I'll do next is move this into the screen. So this one I said I wanted to slide across. So I'll do the same thing. I'm going to add an animation, and I'm going to make it fly in. But this time I want it to come in from the right-hand side. So we'll go to that Effect Options, and we'll put from the right. There it goes. I don't know why I do the sound effects, but I just kind of do enjoy it. This one I'll have come in right from the bottom, just as it is. So now we have these all set up, and we're going to look at that animation pane and see how it goes. And now you can see each one of these has a number next to it. They're all set up to go on click, and that's fine. This is how this would work. I'm going to show it as a slideshow. Here we go. So I have to click, click, click. Oh, that's a lot of clicking. So what I would normally do is I would set these all to play one after the other. So what I'll do is I'll select this first one that comes after, the second one, and set it so that it applies after previous. And what you can see over here is a little timeline of sorts. If I make this bigger, and then I continue this process of making this after previous, after previous, after previous, pew. There we go. You can see they're stacked just like this, and that's how they'll play. And when I click the top and I click play from, you'll see a little timeline move across as it plays to get a sense of the order of things. So I hit play from. So that's another way to animate words and to use different shapes and different tools and set them all up together. Now, perhaps I wanted these to go a little bit differently with their timing because certain words take longer to read than others. What I would do in this case is I would change the duration of each one individually, but I think it works just fine as it is. But that's something to keep in mind depending on how you're doing this. And you can change those either from up here, or you can drag from here. So maybe I want that word animate to take a little bit longer. What I'll do is I'll click this and I'll drag it along. So now we'll make it 1.8 seconds instead. So we'll click up here, click play from. You can see it's just a little bit slower, but that's another way to change the times. So that is a fun way to animate words. It's kind of a quick thing to show, but I wanted to have time for some other features too. And let me bring up the next slide to show you. And if we have time, I'll go back and show some more fun features here. Here's the next one that I wanted to show, and this is kind of akin to maybe when you were a kid in school and you had a stack of Post-it notes or a bunch of papers and you made a flip book. This was one of my favorite things to do, is to just maybe draw like a little stick figure man playing fetch with a stick figure dog across the corner, and you'd flip all the pages and it would play almost like a little movie. And you can do the same thing in PowerPoint. It's really fun. And what you do is you're using not animations themselves, but slide transitions. We talked a little bit about this last week, but we didn't talk about using it in this way to create an animation. So what I have going on here is I have this image of a tree with a tire swing. And as you can see from this panel over here, there's a lot of different slides. There's 60 frames to this animation. And what's happening is in each of these slides, they're exactly the same, except this image here, this tire swing, is being rotated just a little each time. So if I click here, you can see very small incremental movements. The timing's a little bit different because obviously it's going to be a bit faster at the bottom of its swing than it'll be at the top of its swing. But that can be predetermined by how much you rotate it. And to rotate these items, what you would do is once you've cut and pasted it and put it where it belongs, you can click on that image and you would go to the Format option, and this is the Rotate. So what I would do, let's say I wanted to add another slide, I'd right click, duplicate slide, take this, go to Format, Rotate, more rotation options. And what it'll do is give me this specific degree right here. And I would change that exactly as much as I want for this shape. So you can click the arrows. Okay, I'm swinging the wrong way. So I'd swing it a little bit that way. And I'd close it. And I would take a peek between the two. Yep, that's a little bit of movement. So I don't need this one because I already kind of had it down below, so I'm just going to delete. But that's how you would set this up. And I'll show you what it looks like when you play it. Because all we're doing is we're going to transitions, and there isn't even a transition being played. All it's doing is switching automatically to the next slide. And so it does that by doing advanced slide after 0 seconds. So if I go to the slideshow, you can see it's automatically advancing the slideshow for me. And it's playing it along until it gets to the last slide. And you can also set this up on a loop, which is handy, and then it could go, in theory, forever. And I think that's what I had done here. Yes, that is. And that's under slideshow. And what I've done is use timings, automatic. That's just for which slide it comes up on. And then under setup slideshow, we have loop continuously until I hit escape. And so that's all it's doing. It's just automatically progressing the slides with 0 seconds in between for forever until I tell it to stop. And this is something that you can do too with your own. As I said, some of these I'm just kind of bringing up just to show you what's possible and how to do it, mostly to give you ideas of ways that you can use this in your own presentation. And now I'm going to go through one a little bit more in detail. So I'm going to bring up new share, and this is how we can use some other multimedia components. I'll hit share here. So this is a slideshow that is already set up with animations and timings, just like that other one. And what we can do with it is we can add music, and we can play a slideshow with music. So over here on this main pane, I'm going to close the animation pane, the selection pane, and I'll just play it for a moment so that you get a chance to see what it looks like without the music. So I'll hit slideshow down at the bottom. Here it goes. I'm going to click to advance each of these. And these are all animations that we've actually already seen. The slide in, slide out like the text. Fade in. This one was just using a movement path, like the one we used for the map. Same thing here with each of these. So I kind of jumped out of there a little bit early, but nonetheless, that's what's going on. So if I go to my animations, yeah, everything's still all set. It did something a little funky, and I wanted to make sure that everything was still okay. I'll hit that and I'll hit preview. Yeah. I had jumped the gun a little bit and didn't let it fade in on its own. So perfect. Everything is still ready for the tutorial. So as I said, we can put this to music, and it's a really fun way to make a slideshow dynamic, especially if you're making something that'll be like an introduction video before a presentation or a closing little thing, something that people will remember. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the Insert tab. Just like we would for inserting a shape or a picture, we can go all the way to the right, and you can see we have media options: video, audio, and screen recording. So a screen recording, this is not one we're going to do, but if I were to click this, what it does is it shows up the last slide I was on, and I can select what part of that slide that I want to record, and then what I can do from there is just record it. And this is useful if you're doing a tutorial and want to do a voiceover with it. You can unselect the audio if you just want the visual of it, and you can have your mouse available or not, depends on what you want. But just another way to use the video tool. So I'll close that. We go right back to our original slide. And likewise, we won't use a video in this particular option, but you can either go grab an online video, and this is where you could type in a URL. So you could put in a YouTube address here, and you would insert a video clip that you could then play. Or you could grab something off your computer, video on my PC. We're going to use audio, which works the same way. You can either record an audio, which is just like a screen recording, but you would name it, you'd hit record, you'd start going, and then you would save it, and it would appear on your screen in the same way as audio would appear if you download it from your PC. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to click audio on my PC. I was accessing this earlier, so it's just on my desktop. Click this music file, hit insert, and now you can see this little button has appeared. It's this little play music button. And what I can do is I can drag it around to see it better, and I can change it in all sorts of different ways. It gives us both a playback and a format option. Format just changes what the icon looks like, and that's not really important for us. But playback is really powerful. So what we can do here is we can change where this appears. So right now, if we were to play this show, it would be on the screen, which is kind of a bummer. We don't really want to see that. We could either pull it off the screen, that's fine, or we can click this button and hide it during the show. And in this case, this is going to be some music that plays through the presentation and stops at the end. So I definitely want it to play across the slides. And as far as when it starts, I want it to start automatically. So let's see, play across slides, play automatically, hide during show. Perfect. Let's take a look at the animations. Let's look at the animation pane, and you can see it appears here among the animations. These kind of go hand in hand. And it has special animation features of pause and stop and play. And it automatically comes in with a play option. And now, remember how I was showing you this timeline before? You can see that it is going to appear only at the end of the presentation. We don't want that. We want it to play with the previous, but not just with this previous. We want to play with the very first animation. So we'll bring that right to the beginning. In fact, maybe we want it to play first. So previous will go up. So let's see. I'm not sure how audio will work with Zoom, so I'm a little curious about how this will go, but it worked earlier today. Let's give this a try. Perfect. Okay. It didn't transition the slide because I was only playing the animations on this one. So now let's take a peek and see how it works with the whole presentation. Now I'm just going to make sure everything else is all set. So what we want to happen is we want this to progress, and then this one to go, and then this one to go immediately after the last one. So let's go to those transitions. Let's see, it says on click or after 0 seconds. So let's maybe even get rid of that option here. Let's apply to all. This is a handy feature if you've kind of set up what you want for each slide. For one slide and you want it to apply to each, you can click that. And now all of these will have the same settings. So let's give this slideshow a look. Be careful if the volume jumps pretty loud. It was kind of loud on my end. So there we go. That is the presentation with the music. And in this case, the way this little jingle happens, it's pretty much fine to play exactly as it is. I don't have to worry about the timing too much. But if that was something that I was concerned about, there's a way to do this. So perhaps you had particular beats where you wanted the slide change to occur. This is where you can use your slideshow tool to its kind of full advantage. There's some options on here that just give you the initial starting of the slideshow, how you want to have it set up, that option where we could loop it, things like that. But the other one that's useful is this Rehearse Timings tool. And rehearsing the timings allows you to click and move ahead the slides at exactly the moment you want, and then apply those to the final presentation. So let me show you how that works. I'll click Rehearse Timings and starts the show. So there we go. it made that about 48 seconds, and it brings up this pop-up of, do you want to save the new slide timings? In this case, I do. I liked the way that worked. I'll hit yes. And now if we go to each slide, we will see under the transitions exactly what time it happened. So this was 5 seconds and 0.01 seconds. You could clean those up and make them exact numbers, or you could keep them however they are. And you may have noticed that the last thing that was a little bit jarring was the music kind of abruptly ended. And we can work on that too. So if we want to change that, we can go to this little guy again, this little icon that gives us our settings for the music. Go to that playback option, and you can see under editing, there's a trim option, and there's a fade in and fade out. And if you remember, the music, we only had it play for 48 seconds, which is less than half of the time that it goes. So what we can do is type in here, I'm going to do 00:48:00. You could also click and drag it there. So we'll hit OK. Now it knows what I want. Click OK there. And now perhaps I want maybe the fade out to last, 10 seconds. Maybe that's a little much. Let's see how long we're on that last slide. I can click on it, go to transitions. It's about 5.58. Okay. So that means it's going to have a little bit of time on there. I thought it would give me a better judge of how long it would last, but I was mistaken. So anyway, gonna go back to the first slide where our playback guy lives. Playback. Let's try it with just the 10 seconds. And we'll play this one more time and just see how it goes. So that is that. That is how you would add a fade out for a slideshow with music. And if I had a little more time, I would show you one more feature that's pretty fun from here. And this is on your slideshow. You have one more option that once you have all your timings perfect, you can record it. And what you can do is record from the beginning, and it'll play through that again, and I won't make you watch that. But then it'll create a file for you that you can save and have as a movie on your computer, which is pretty cool. It'll also record any narrations that you give while you're talking, and it allows you to have this presentation kind of in your back pocket that you can play for anybody. So that is an introduction to the animations and multimedia content and things that you can do with that for PowerPoint. So I'm going to stop the recording, and I see we might have a question.